I'm digital anchor Andre Ash with the Michigan Chronicle. You know, small business is the heartbeat of Detroit's economy. They define the communities here. They create jobs locally. They provide local goods and services, as well as attract and retain businesses here. You know, business ownership is a way to reduce poverty and is also a way to build back the black middle class, if you will. But there's also an unmet demand for goods and services in the city of Detroit. And as a result, Detroiters, they cross the borders and they spend billions of dollars in suburban communities. Well, the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation and Detroit Means Business are working together to rebuild Detroit's small business community and recapture some of that lost revenue and make Detroit a place for small business ownership, especially for black and brown communities. Well, how are they doing that? Well, here to talk more just about that is Kevin Johnson, President and CEO of Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, and Pierre Batton, who is the Executive Vice President of Detroit Means Business. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here.
Good to be here.
So this is a great podcast to be informative, to talk about all of what's happening in the small business climate in Detroit. Kevin, let's start with you. You know, we've gone through the COVID pandemic. What was the pre-COVID business climate in Detroit, pre-COVID, and how would you describe the business climate today as we transition out of COVID?
Sure. Well, first, thanks for inviting Pierre and I to share some information about what we're doing to continue to stimulate the economy in the city of Detroit. Prior to the pandemic, to your question, I would say that there was this kind of there was, and I think there's still some elements of this energy of risk taking from an entrepreneurial perspective. There was this level of financial commitment, not only with personal capital that small businesses had invested in their businesses. Then there was a firm commitment by the administration and by tools that we had available from DEGC to bring all of those things together for the outcome that we desire, which was to open as many small businesses in commercial corridors and neighborhoods as we could. You've stated in your monologue there that the heartbeat of Detroit is small businesses. Yeah. It is a neighborhood stabilizer, and when those types of small business services are interrupted or disrupted, it has this cascading effect. Yeah. It can lead to some characteristics of our neighborhoods that we don't want to see anymore, and we're trying to correct. So from that perspective, I would say the climate was very positive. The attitude of the business community was extremely confident that they were doing the right things at the right time. Yeah. And thirdly, we had this need to wrap the services around those businesses to make sure that those things happen. Post-pandemic, and I'm saying that because I'm claiming it, if you will, yeah. That energy is still there, but there is this kind of element of caution, and understandably so. Yeah. Some businesses that we were working with were under intense strain through the pandemic, and what we're trying to do is to bring the things that came into our organization through Detroit Means Business and other services that we provided to help kind of stabilize that cloud that was hanging over some of the small businesses that we were working with. So I think there's this cautious optimism in the community right now, yeah. With a need to see if you can get back what you lost. Yeah. Even a percentage of what you lost was better than no percentage at all. Yeah. And so working on that, you know, we were at this level, now we can get it back to here, I think we'll be okay. Yeah. And we're trying to help them with that. Yeah.
And Pierre, as the executive Vice President for Small Business Services, I mean, what do you see as the ecosystem right now, the vision for Detroit's small business ecosystem? What do you look to as the North Star? What's the ultimate goal as we try to climb out of the COVID period we're in right now?
Well, I'm really, echo Kevin's sentiments of, thank you guys for having us here to be able to talk about this. Small businesses, the last year specifically, have been extremely impacted by the pandemic here, specifically in the city of Detroit. You're talking about a health pandemic that's affected many of our families in terms of our households. Personally, it has affected our small businesses financially. Oftentimes, our small business owners are sole proprietors. And so when we look at in terms of the reopening plans, for instance, last year, barbershops and hair salons were the last to be able to reopen last June. Right, that also had a very not so positive impact in terms of our small business community here in Detroit. And so Detroit Means Business as a coalition, we came together last year specifically with one goal. We saw what was happening March 16th. Everything shut down. The world came to a halt. Right. We wanted to make sure that our businesses were there when everything reopened. So we all banded together, and we have a lot of might and muscle at the table, including organizations helmed by Kevin here in terms of DEGC, as well as some of our other partners, Invest Detroit, Techtown, DTE Energy. And when you look at what we've been able to do for small businesses in the last year, just to rattle off some of the accomplishments, $15 million in cash grants to over 2,200 businesses here in the city of Detroit.
Well, that's interesting that you bring that up, because I want to talk about how have businesses benefited from both the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, Detroit Means Business. It is good to know that there is this ecosystem, this wealth of resource, and as they used to call it, the one-stop shop, if you will. And that's basically what the both of you are doing. Talk briefly about the businesses that have benefited from this partnership, if you will.
Absolutely. I think we've seen it a number of different ways. And so if you take the Paycheck Protection Program, over the course of last year versus this year, round one, when the Paycheck Protection Program came out last year, there was kind of a botched rollout at the federal level. Because of that, a lot of our business owners here in the city did not trust it as a product. They directly told us, that's not for us, right? I don't want a loan. Even though it basically converts into a grant, right? If you spend the dollars as the Paycheck Protection Program tells you to do,
then there was no money to give back.
There's no money to give back, right? It effectively is a forgivable loan. For round two, we knew that going in, and we made a very conscious and intentional effort to get out, get boots on the ground. Even things are reopening now. Things were still closed down. We had district business liaisons meeting with business owners, telling them about the program, kind of helping them to overcome some of those concerns, hosting a number of webinars, both in person as well as online with business owners to tell them, kind of explain the program a little bit more to them. And then the biggest thing and most important thing I think that we did is with Detroit Means Business, we have a group of business owners that are really the core of what we do. They're referred to as our stakeholder advisory group. They inform everything that we do with this initiative. It's business owner led and ran. And I think that's a very unique thing, elevating the voices of business owners here in Detroit to say, hey, this is what we need to do. And that was, all of this has kind of been driven out of the feedback that we got from business owners, specifically where they said, hey, look, institutions, organizations, they're great. I want to hear the real deal from other business owners, though. I need an outside validator to tell me this program is worth me looking at. Who can I speak to who's been where I've been, who sat in the chair that I've sat in? And that's where the stakeholder advisor group has been so key and so instrumental in terms of guiding us forward for, as Kevin said, the post-pandemic strategy, which ultimately are our North Star goals for Detroit Means Business. We're looking to do some, I'm sure everybody's heard of big, hairy, audacious goals. I don't know if they get any bigger than our North Star goals. We're talking about $250 million of affordable capital to Black and BIPOC business owners, specifically in the city of Detroit, over the next 5 years. We're talking $2 billion in contracts directly to Black and BIPOC businesses in the city of Detroit over the next 5 years. Hiring 25,000 jobs created, again, with Black and BIPOC businesses over the next 5 years. So something also I think really important about Detroit Means Business is, we are very intentional in terms of what we are talking about, how we are quantifying growth, what that looks like in terms of who we are talking about with the small business community, and making sure that, to your point, as a one-stop shop, those resources are getting to the business owners that sorely need them. There's a whole vast ecosystem that many business owners that have been in business for 10, 20, 30 years may not even be aware of.
Don't know where to go.
And don't know where to go.
And I want to talk more about that because, Kevin, I want to get you in for a moment
Yeah.
because
No, sure.
With the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, I mean, you know, it's an entity that has been around for quite some time.
Yeah.
It has had a history of helping spur growth in businesses here in Detroit. But it almost seems as if with this pandemic now, there has been capital and resources available now more than ever, and we're seeing how many businesses are benefiting from it.
Well, I mean, one of the things that we had to be that was revealed to us.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew it internally, but we didn't know how to kind of rally our resources around it, and that is from the marketplace's perspective.
Right.
There's many business service organizations in the city of Detroit. Many. And if you, as a business owner, connected to I wouldn't call it the wrong one, but the one that you are most familiar with, then it got to the point where they would pass you to another one. And that one would pass you to another one. And it may be 3 or 4 passes before you got to what you needed as a business owner.
And you get lost in the sauce.
And you get lost in the sauce, absolutely. And so one of the things and one of the outcomes of being very mindful of that was this coalition, where we tried to pull in as many of the BSOs as we could to say to them, look, we can't risk one of our small businesses getting lost in the sauce. So we need to create as much as a one-stop shop for resources as we can, because one of the things, as to your point around the dollars, they were circulating to one organization. When we would get grant dollars, they were giving it not to 200 organizations. They were going to give it to one organization, and that one organization happened to be us, right? Because we are familiar, and we're a known entity in Lansing, in Washington, in other places where these resources were coming from. So I think it was an important catch on our part to make sure that the marketplace knew who we were and doubled down on who we were and what our intentions were. And I think we did that fairly successfully.
And I think, Pierre, you touched on it just a moment ago, but if you're joining us right now, you're tuning in, if you haven't heard anything else, you need to understand that this is a one-stop shop partnership between Detroit Economic Growth Corporation and Detroit Means Business, and the resources, again, that are available to small businesses. What are those resources, again, available today, and how can they help small business owners and entrepreneurs here in Detroit?
Yeah, you know, I'm happy to dive into that a little bit. So the beauty, first and foremost, I think, of the coalition is it allows us to leverage so many existing resources that are out there across what we call the small business ecosystem here in the city of Detroit. And so we have partners at the table who operate some of the best programming in the country. You look at what Techtown is doing with Retail Boot Camp and the SWAT City work. You look at what our partners at Invest Detroit are doing in terms of being the largest CDFI in the state of Michigan, right? You look at the work, as Kevin has mentioned, that we have been operating internally as the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, as the chief EDO here in the city of Detroit. And so you take that and you leverage it with so many other partners at the table and the work that they're doing. DTE has done some incredible economic development work over the past few years. Last year specifically, as a part of Detroit Means Business, DTE made it possible for nearly 6,000 small businesses in Detroit to have free access to PPE. This was in June and July of 2020. This is at a time where
it was when things were shutting down and trying to reopen as much as you could. How?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the guides that we had to develop so we can tell you how to reopen.
Yeah.
Don't assume it's because you can open. That didn't mean you were open.
Yeah.
It meant you can open, but this is how you need to open.
Right.
And a lot of people didn't know how to open. Right. So a lot of the resource guides that we developed was through this partnership we had with DTE, not only the guides, but the equipment itself.
Yeah. So there were entities, these institutions that help guide a pathway for businesses to reopen properly and safely.
100%.
Exactly. You know, I think the business owners that are the core part of Detroit Means Business, that cannot be understated or said too much. You know, they were giving us that real feedback, right, of what business owners need, which is, you know, one of the first things we heard at the very beginning of the pandemic was, I'm getting emails claiming this is a real grant opportunity or this is a real loan opportunity. I need a clearinghouse. Who can vet this information for me so that I know that it's accurate and real, because I don't want to send my financial information over to an organization I've never heard of before, right? That's going to give me a $15,000 or $20,000 grant. In addition to that, who can plug me in? I need an accountant to be able to apply for the Paycheck Protection Program. I need these other things. So, we all came together, quickly stood up the Detroit Means Business website to be that clearinghouse, to be that one-stop shop for folks, to go where you could get a trusted information. And now, we've had nearly about 8,000 businesses to date that have, signed up for our newsletter, for instance, just in the past year, in terms of trying to get access to that information, right? Information is so key for business owners, and we are at a crucial inflection point in time right now, where arguably information is more powerful than it has ever been, right? As additional federal dollars trickle and make their way into our economy, our local economy here, as businesses are beginning to reopen up, as businesses are looking at the challenges of what it means to reopen up. A year ago, to Kevin's point, Detroit Means Business crafted playbooks about what it meant to reopen. Now it's not just a matter of needing a playbook, but you also labor, right? Is a really big thing for us. How do we? You think about a restaurant here in the city. Realistically, maybe hasn't done a hiring fair since they first opened, right? What does it mean to bring in 10 or 12 people on your team, and hire them for an already established business, right? Like, what are your business needs, and how can you get connected to them? Right, exactly, right? And also the last piece with this is, I'm hearing about so many different funding streams, right? So there's ARPA at the local level. So there's ARPA at the city dollars. There's also ARPA at the county level. There's also ARPA at the state level. There's also other federal products. And so, we have an abundance of resource. The cavalry is coming for our small businesses. There's also the question of, as a small business owner, how are you going to connect to all of this? How are you going to find out about these opportunities? And that's where Detroit Means Business, especially in the foreseeable future, is going to be that resource for folks to be able to go. You can log on the website right now, cheap plug, go to DetroitMeansBusiness.org. If you have not been there, if you are a business owner, you're going to find out about loan opportunities. I know you're saying, Pierre, I don't want a loan. Tell me about grants. You're going to find out about grant opportunities there. If you need to get connected to any of our 60 plus small business organizations that can help you right now, we can connect you to that. Maybe you have some workforce challenges that you just heard me hit on. Guess what? You probably have heard about the incredible work that our partners over at Detroit at Work did in terms of connecting 5,000 Detroiters to those opportunities with the Stellantis plant that was built here in the city of Detroit. If you're a small business owner, Detroit at Work will do that for you too. They'll actually help you build that job description. They'll actually open up their entire talent pool to you so you don't have to start at square one. And that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the resources that are available for small businesses right now. It's a wealth of knowledge, I'm sure, for small businesses here in Detroit that are gaining through this very podcast. We talk about information. This is one of them, and information that we're trying to get to the public and to small businesses here in Detroit. But you touched on it, Pierre, about funding, federal funding. Kevin, with the American Rescue Package, how will that help small business owners, and how will that money be earmarked?
Well, the earmarking piece of the dollars, obviously, the city has its allocation. We are working through, and I think it's a brilliant process that the city is engaged in, and actually listening to the community as to what they think the priorities of the dollars should be. Some of those dollars will be directed toward how do we strengthen our small business ecosystem and community. The amount of allocation is to be determined, but it is one of the line items, if you will, where dollars will be directed. And Detroit Means Business, DEGC, and other entities within the city that actually touch small business will be the receiver of some of those the allocation, not just to stand up our organization, because we don't, our organization is designed to get the dollars out to the small business community. And so when that allocation is determined based on the input that we will receive from the community and the mayor, then we will go about the business of shifting those resources out to the small business community. But there is a target for small business to be the beneficiary of those ARPA dollars.
Because nonetheless, either way you sandwich or mix the sauce, the money and capital is out there. It's coming. It will be made available to small businesses in Detroit.
It will, and something I think worth double clicking on here are the opportunities specifically related to procurement. So there, when you look at whether it's the city or the state, you're going to see, a small business bucket, let's say. I would challenge everyone to look a little deeper. If you looked at, if you haven't had the chance, definitely go to the city's website and check out the mayor's presentation in with regards to what the administration is recommending, the use of the ARPA dollars. I'm going to call out one item specifically, the Joe Louis Greenway. If you look at that and first glance, you're saying, well, that's not small business. Well, who do you think is going to build the Joe Louis Greenway? That's going to be a major contracting opportunity for our smaller contracting firms here within the city. You go down, whether it's the city, the state, or even some of the other federal pieces, there's going to be a number of opportunities for small businesses to lean into that. And I want to elevate that because, again, contracting is one of the top 3 things that we have heard from business owners before the pandemic and especially since the pandemic, right? And
the city's very interested in spending those dollars with small businesses. So this isn't just for the brands with the names on the buildings. These are for the brands with the name on the side of the truck, kind of a thing. So I think that commitment that Pierre has hit on it great. We gotta have this commitment to small business, and the city's already recognizing that as they walk through these dollars, which will be tremendous. But that is the basis of standing up and building back a middle class that's under stress and strain right now.
Briefly, walk us through, and Kevin, I'll start with you. Walk us through what do you expect to see in the small business community in the next 30, 60, 90 days? Briefly walk us through that.
I think there's this, I think reopening is still kind of the gear right now. Let's get us open. I think that because we're in the great part of the summer, that things that they learned during the pandemic is being institutionalized. So how you did business pre-pandemic is not necessarily how you're going to be doing business post-pandemic. And some of the positive things that came out of the pandemic, including online retail, when you never did it before, is the way you're going to be doing business moving forward. So I think you'll see more businesses adopting that model of, yes, we'll maintain our traditional way in which we do business, but we have this new track. So I think you'll see that in the next 60 to 90 days. The spending that has been pent up will be released. So you'll see construction on businesses that had to hit the pause button during the pandemic begin to get those things kind of completed. There is a tremendous amount of stress on the skilled trades right now. There's just not enough of them, to finish projects. I mean, carpenters, welders, electricians, they're all at overcapacity. So one of the negatives I think that will happen over these months is that these projects can't get built because there isn't availability of people to build them.
I think everyone's looking for labor.
Everybody's looking for labor, right? And I think that's going to take time to kind of weed itself. We get the weeds out of the system and allow for that labor to be released. That's what I see in the next 69 days.
And Pierre, I want to get to you about this issue that you see emerge, and it's been emerging on a separate track about people who have been here, who have already been in Detroit, and how can they be a part of whether it's Detroit's comeback or Detroit's renewed growth, whatever you want to call it. How is Detroit Means Business helping existing legacy Detroiters and companies that have been here? What's your thoughts about that?
I think there are 2 ways I'd like to hit on to address that question. I think the first is there's no better advocate at times for yourself than yourself. And so to all the businesses that have been here are the reason that our neighborhoods are currently vibrant, that our neighborhoods are currently dynamic. One of the reasons that as a kid who grew up in Long Beach, California, the LBC, I moved to Detroit at the age of 23 to want to live in the city and experience the city, and happily I'm here with my family at this point, are because of those fixtures, those institutions that have been here. And I think something really important, and there's an opportunity right now. You know, the city is undergoing a process of hosting 25 community meetings related to the city's use of its federal funding. We call it ARPA for short. I would call on every single business owner to attend those meetings. You can do it virtually. You don't have to be there in person. In fact, there's even a survey link. You can complete the survey by just going to the city's website. And this is really important because you as a small business owner, your voice isn't being heard if it's not calculated or tabulated at those meetings with how the city is looking to spend its federal allocation. And, you know, I would first, again, challenge all our business owners to step up and do that, right? This is your vote. It's as simple as filling out a census form. Do it so that your voices can be heard as small business owners. Now, to the second piece of this, and you know what we're doing as Detroit Means Business, I think it's first that elevation of that business voice continuously. I think number two, it's understanding that, you know, Detroit Means Business. I'm going to make an analogy here at the very end. Detroit Means Business is the freeway. There's a number of different on-ramps to a freeway. You might work with Invest Detroit. You might have worked with DEGC. You might have worked with TechTown. You might be somebody that just Googled it and found out about the Motor City Match program and applied to it, right? The point is, though, the freeway is there to get you towards your destination, ultimately, right? And that's what Detroit Means Business is here to do. So if you are an existing business owner, if you've been here, you've been representing the city before it was a trendy thing to do, before Detroit became the new splashy thing that everybody wanted to lean into the last decade, right? If you've been that business owner, we want to connect you to the resources. So we need you as a business owner to go to DetroitMeansBusiness.org to, you know, log in, complete the intake form. We can have somebody, we have 60 plus organizations that are a part of this. And we can get you whatever additional help that you need as a business owner. If you don't know what you need, but you're just like, the current ain't cutting it, right? Again, we can help you to figure out what that answer is that's right for you and for your business and where you're looking to take it here in the city, to make sure you're plugged into those opportunities, to make sure you know about these things when they first come out. Because as we've said so many times, you know, during this podcast, information, knowledge is power, right? And so when these grant funds, I know everybody always, you know, that when I walk down the street, people are like, Pierre, tell me about the next grant fund that's coming out, right? And the quickest, surefire way for you to know first and foremost is by signing up for the Detroit Means Business newsletter, because as we've seen over the entire last year, grant funds are oversubscribed in the first 24 hours, right? There's a lot of additional ones that might open, but you can't wait to day 3 or day 4 of that. You got to be ready. And, you know, as we all like to say, right, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Right. Let us help you stay ready with Detroit Means Business.
I like the freeway analogy. Just hopefully it comes to no detours.
Exactly.
Which is what this was, right?
Absolutely. So, Kevin, we'll get you to wrap up. How can people find out more information about this partnership, Detroit Economic Growth Corporation's Detroit Means Business?
So you can't get to one without getting to the other, right? Detroit Means Business is a program of the DEGC. So if you go and you know, hate to over website you, but DetroitMeansBusiness.org is what Pierre and his team leads, and the Detroit DEGC.org is kind of the parent over Detroit Means Business. And you know, between those two, there's no way to get lost in the sauce. It is as clear as day. We're easy to find, but I think given the idea that this resource is available, we need our businesses to be aware of it and click on it and call us. If we don't have the answer immediately, I bet you within 24 hours or less, not only will we get you an answer, we'll get you a good answer. And that's the benefit of doing the work and having this partnership with our coalition members, with Pierre at the helm of leading the Detroit Means Business. We think we can be as effective and impactful as we can as an organization for economic development in the city of Detroit.
I love it. A wealth of information and knowledge to be gained. Thank you so much, and thank you for watching. Again, for more information, check out this podcast made readily available, Michigan Chronicle, Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, Detroit Means Business. Thank you so much for joining us here in Studio 1452. I'm digital anchor Andre Ash, Michigan Chronicle.